Sun Tzu said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting." Now, The Art of War is a great book. It's a military book that spans over 1,000 years. There's a lot of history there. I don't really want to get into the history of the book, but we're going to get to some of the contents. A lot of military tactics involved in this book. But there are some things that we can pick apart and apply to our own lives, even if we're not in the military. Look, a lot of us are not fighting in the military or taking up arms, but there are some important things that we can take in terms of mindset and planning in our own lives. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight, knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces, whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks, prepared himself and waits to take all the enemy unprepared, has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. That's a bunch of things that Sun Tzu listed in terms of who's most likely to win. And a lot of the concepts within this book are really not about direct combat, but about deception and figuring out ways to confuse and manipulate your enemy, which in many terms, if you confuse someone mentally, it could be better than fighting them physically, because sometimes fighting physically, you may be outnumbered, you may be outstrength, and you have a less chance of victory. So confusing your opponent and not taking them on directly, but indirectly through mental games, mind games and stuff like that, you have a bad chance of victory. So consider that. The synopsis of The Art of War is knowing how and when to fight is key to victory. One must know the enemy and oneself to win every battle. Yeah, and this one is important. If you know, I'm not going to try to flip everything into a bigger meaning, and this is all just a big meaning in life. But it's important to know yourself and important to know who you're up against. If it's your competition in a business or a company or your employees or whoever it is, not necessarily your enemy that you're going to fight, but someone who's your competition that you want to be better than, you want to improve than. One of the best way is to know yourself and know who your competition is if you want to be better than the competition. And I hope that's clear. I don't want to make everything a bigger meaning in life. The Art of War is important because it is the oldest known written exposition of universal military tactics. Sun Tzu says, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." I don't know if you've ever seen that quote. I've seen that quote probably like 20 times before I even knew what the book was. And to my surprise, it was from Sun Tzu himself. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. This is another one of those things where you can take it into a bigger meaning in life and apply it to your day-to-day chores. You know, you're brooming your floor, you're hoovering the floor, and you're using Sun Tzu quotes to compare it to it. But first, try to win your own mental battles. Try win first mentally and with your strategies and your plans before going out and setting out to do things, because that are those people that prepare first. They win first and then they go out to capitalize on their plans, as opposed to people who pray and hope things go well without planning. They go out, seek to win the first time, but the person who's won the first time has already planned everything. You're less likely to win if you're the second person. Make sure you plan first. You win by planning. And that's probably not exactly what Sun Tzu meant with this, but that's what we're going to take from it. At the end of the day, there's an aspect of taking things and applying it into your own life and kind of switching the meaning a little bit so it can benefit you. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. That's almost like float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali's quote. Avoid what is strong and strike what is weak. This is another method of Sun Tzu. He's not telling us that, to be the best warrior, you have to fight the strongest people, regardless of your own strength, and be very direct. He's telling you that the art of war as he knows it, is about deception. It's about having the upper hand. It's about finding ways where you can win and being realistic about what you yourself are capable of and what capacity you have. Because in the fairy tale world, we can say that you just go for the strongest person. You are the anime character. You are the main character of the story. But in reality, you have limitations. So you need to plan around that and have your victory as number one. And what you'll do to make that victory possible is work around tough roadblocks so you can get there. Know how to deceive the enemy. Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Another form of manipulation. Know your strengths and weaknesses. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Exactly. I'm not going to hinder on this point too much. I just don't like to... In the UK, we say waffle, which means talking, yapping. I don't want to yap on this point, but you should know your own strengths and weaknesses in general. Just in general. We're not talking about war. We're talking about life. We're talking about day-to-day struggles. Day-to-day maneuvers, monthly plans, yearly struggles. Know your strengths and weaknesses because that will allow you to understand what you are capable of and what you can achieve. There's a difference between setting goals that you cannot achieve and setting goals that are within your capability. As simple as that is, as a platitude statement as that is, it needs to be said to people that don't hear that often. So once you start to know yourself better, which is something I can relate to, once you know yourself better, you are more confident and you fear things less because a lot of things become more within your control. The things that are within your control become more known. And the things out of your control are unknown because you don't know what the result of them are. But the things in your control should be within your knowledge. And if you don't know what's in your control, you don't have that knowledge, you're going to be so afraid of everything because you don't know anything at that point. You don't know what's within your knowledge, what's within your capabilities and what's not. So consider that. It can be tedious, it can be lengthy, it can be boring, but it's worth it in the long run of things. Believe me. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. All warfare. Okay, what was that? No. Okay, we're gonna move past that. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we make the enemy believe we are near. Sun Tzu just said it flat out. He just said it flat out in a statement. All warfare is based on deception. There is that element, and that element takes you up a notch if your enemy is not using it. If they're focused on pure strength and direct contact, they miss out on the element of mental warfare, which is a big aspect of war, as we all think with war tactics. War tactics is based on how you can get the upper hand on the enemy before you even fight them directly. So Sun Tzu probably, I don't know how many wars Sun Tzu's been in or how many wars he's read, but he understands that concept. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. You know how Mike Tyson said that the punch that knocks you out is the punch you are not expecting. This is applied similar in the same context. If you're not prepared for something, that's where it's going to hurt the most. So make sure you prepare for things in terms of your goals, like planning for your goals, planning for your business or your job or your passion. Make sure you try to plan as much as possible so you can avoid being unprepared. One may know how to conquer without being able to do it. And that's what I think of. For example, I think about my YouTube knowledge. Like, I know so much about YouTube, but applying the stuff on YouTube is a lot more difficult because when you're in the backseat watching everything, it's just a lot easier to judge and to say, I can do this. I'll be this one day. Actually applying these things and being that person that you thought you could be is a lot more different. So know the difference between knowing one thing and applying one thing. You may know how to be an astronaut. Like, you may know like a few things about it. You may have studied it. Being an astronaut is a completely different thing as opposed to knowing how to be an astronaut. And that's flow. That's what Sun Tzu says, not the astronaut statement. In battle, there are not more than two methods of attack: the direct and the indirect. Direct is more of the physical stuff. Indirect is more of the mental warfare that goes on before or during the battle. You can be sure in succeeding if you're in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. Yeah. You know, like, have you ever played Clash Royale or Clash of Clans, or you probably never played those games before, but these war games that you play on your iPhone or your PlayStation, whatever, you shouldn't be going for the most defended places first sometimes. Like, most cases, you go for the undefended area so you can attack the heaviest. Because that's where the least defense is. That's where you can do the most damage. Instead of attacking the place with the biggest defense, like the left side where the most defense is, go around the right side. Because that's where you can break the defense. Since there's no defense strong enough there, you can break and then get to the goal of doing the most damage possible. And in that same way, if we apply it to life, you know, another life application thing, a platitude, we're going to say, when you're aiming to accomplish certain task and your goal is to achieve certain things, whatever, and this is off the top of my head, so I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this, but try to go the route that is of least resistance, because that can be the easiest route for you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Going through the hardest routes all of the time will lead to problems in some ways, and maybe this statement isn't really of value because it could be wrong, but that's one take on it. If you have one take on that last quote, let me know down below. Thank you for watching this, and I hope these have been getting better and better.